This is fight 245. It's at Taipei up in Chiang Mai. And it's an important fight for me for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that at 245, I have 9 amateur fights. So this is my 236th professional fight. That's an important number because it's the halfway mark for my goal of 471 fights. Why, Sylvie, do you have a goal of 471 fights? The highest held record of recorded professional fights, where there's a record of each one, is this fighter from the 1930s and 40s in England named Len Wickwar. He was a boxer, and he has 470. So I want to honor Len Wickwar's amazing accomplishment by beating it, because that's what you do. So I want 471 fights, and this being 236 professional is the halfway mark for that. But on my record I put my total of fights, so this is fight 245 on my total. And I'm fighting Palmy or Sanitpan. She is a very good fighter from up north, and we're doing this thing in the center of the ring now, getting garlands. The man who's putting the garlands on us is an important figure in the northern scene of Muay Thai. So Muay Thai is not only a publication that is reporting on Muay Thai all around Thailand, but it's also sanctioning bodies. And so in each region, there is a Muay Thai club, and he is an important figure in the northern chapter. Incidentally, Palmy, my opponent, had just been awarded that morning the greatest female fighter of the year for the year prior, so 2018. She got that award this morning. And so I was pretty sure that fighting her tonight after she had just gotten that award, and my last fight was against her and I'd knocked her out. So this is a little bit of a grudge match. This is our 5th time fighting together. We were 2-2 going into this fight. I was pretty sure there was no way that I could win this fight on points. She outweighs me by a lot. She's the northern champion at 118 pounds, and when we fought, the program said 119 pounds. I weigh 100 pounds, so she outweighs me by a lot. She's tall, she's rangy, she's a smart fighter, she's very evasive. She's exactly the kind of fighter I really hate fighting, honestly. But I talk to legends of the Golden Age all the time about rematches are a thing in Thailand, and they will have fought an amazing fighter like 3 to 5 times, and they didn't necessarily love fighting them either. So I think it's kind of cool that I have to rematch people who I don't actually love fighting, because mentally you just have to get past it. There was more to going into this fight that was putting a lot of pressure on me. The promoter for the Pet Supapan promotion, which is the promotion at Lumpini that my gym's fighters fight on, he happens to be from the north of Thailand, and he also received an award at this morning's function. So the promoter that the boys from my gym fight for in Lumpini was here at my fight. I don't think that he's ever seen me fight before. He knows of me because I'm a Petrungarung fighter, but when I went back and said hi to him in the back room prior to this fight, he was actually surprised that I knew who he was. But I felt a lot of pressure fighting in front of someone who's important to my gym. When I come up to Chiang Mai, I'm not, other than fighting with my gym name and honoring my gym, I'm not really super connected to them. Nobody comes with me. So there's a lot of pressure with that. And then Palmy, her gym name is Sanitpan. The or part is an initial, it means Ajahn. So Ajahn Sanit was here in her corner. He's not often there because she relocated to Chiang Mai. And so now she trains at a gym that's not his gym, but he was there because he was receiving an award as the greatest trainer of the year or greatest gym of the year. And it happens to be that my trainer, when he was a fighter back in the day, when he would go to Lumpini, he knew Ajahn Sanit, and he really respects him. And I've met Ajahn Sanit a few times. He's a very lovely man. He's always very sweet to me, and I respect him a lot. And when I saw him, that's him in the white in the corner. When I saw him prior to this fight, he looked at me and smiled and said, "We meet again." And he kind of had this tone that was like, he knows how unfair the size disparity is between me and Palmy. Like, he was a little bit embarrassed by it. Like, he would not be proud of booking that big of a size advantage. But here's the thing. Palmy and I have fought now, including this fight, 5 times, and we were 2-2 going into it. If I always lost to Palmy, totally the size disparity would be unfair. And when I'm like really feeling sorry for myself, I get upset about the size disparity. But it's not unfair because I can win, and I do win. So if you have a goal of fighting a lot, and with a goal of 471 fights, obviously I want to fight a lot, you have to meet things where they are. Like, you have to take what on paper looks like a huge disadvantage. The size disadvantage is something in and of itself. Going into this fight, my head was full of how many disadvantages I had going into this fight because of all these things going on with the like awards of Muay Thai of the North. But you do it because that's part of fighting. So I kind of will admit I didn't have like the greatest mental attitude coming into this fight because I felt like I was so much the underdog, but it also allowed me to let go a little bit and just kind of fight free because I felt like there was no way I could win unless I knocked her out again. And I think that it helped me. Diesel Noy was at my last fight with her, the one where I knocked her out, and he laid into me after the fight about how lame it looks to be kicking the front leg of a left-handed fighter when I'm orthodox with my front leg. And so I translated in my head, instead of kicking the leg, I was teeping her with that front leg, and it made a huge difference. It helped me stay in a range that's really good for me, and she does this thing with her lead arm. You'll see her right arm, she kind of puts in your face and waves around. It's so obnoxious and effective because she's very long. And I've been very bothered by it in a lot of fights, and I like make up my mind that I'm going to do something about it, but I actually don't do anything very effective about it. In this fight, I felt like I dealt with it in a really nice way, and the teep was part of that. So you'll see my teep being effective in creating the range that works well for me. I'm staying pretty far away from her right now, which is not my range at all, and she's very long, so she has these beautiful left kicks that are coming up and tagging me. But because it's an early round, those don't matter so much, and the way that I respond to them is more important than really the fact of those being points this early in the fight. So there I was going after her front leg, but I was using my back leg to do it. So Diesel Noy's problem was that I was using my front leg against a southpaw fighter, which he said was leaving me open on my open side. He said it looks really bad. So it's just round 1. It's kind of like a feeling out round. Diesel Noy is at my gym 3 days a week for the next 6 months. It's something that we've done, bringing him into an active gym to kind of connect the bookends of legendary fighters who aren't really connected to particular gyms anymore, as well as active contemporary fighters getting contact with this incredible knowledge of fighters from before. That's made possible by my patrons. We're calling it the Legends in Residence project. Everything I do is made possible by my patrons. It's absolutely incredible. But that's one of the reasons I've been able to be yelled at by Diesel Noy after my fights, is that he's literally in my gym. And so he can tell me what he wants me to be doing in terms of like range and strategy. Something that he talked to me about after my last fight was that my dern, which is just coming forward, it's the way you talk about a fighter who's the one advancing. And as a knee fighter, you're usually the one advancing. He said that my dern was good, but that I didn't reach her. Like, I was going and then stopping short. Kevin and I call it being on the porch. But so something that was important to me in this fight was that my dern would reach her in order to land my shorter range weapons, because I'm smaller and shorter and my weapons are like knees, elbows, this kind of thing. So it's short, whereas she wants to keep me really long. The times that I've lost to her, I've been super aggravated because I've stayed at her range and she basically just juggles me really, really far away. So in order to get my range, I'm going left, which is getting outside her lead arm. So I'm going into her blind spot, which cuts off a lot of what she's able to do with her strikes. I should be driving left a little bit harder. That's good though, because I was kind of angling left, my right side was coming towards her as I was trying to land those strikes. And now we're in a clinch, which is totally my advantage. This is how I win my fights against her, 100%. So I kind of have a lock on her and I'm trying to square up a little bit. Actually trying to turn her there. But one of the things that Kevin tells me all the time is that I need to clinch early. Early rounds don't score a whole lot, so even though I'm scoring with these knees at close range, and she's kind of keeping up with me a little bit, this is not a like I'm getting ahead on the scorecard because it's round 2. Instead, this is putting money in the bank, tiring her out for later rounds. And if I clinch her early and she starts to solve things that I'm doing, I can solve her solve as it progresses. The way that you score Muay Thai in Thailand is a narrative. It's looking at the entire fight and how the like trajectory of each fighter went. So in these earlier rounds, in the first round, she was tagging me all the time. Does not matter. There was a beautiful left cross from her. Doesn't matter, really, unless it connects to the story she starts telling in round 3 as we're trying to build in round 3. She has this beautiful front teep that she uses to keep me off. She kind of like scoops it. But because I'm driving hard to the left, it cuts off her ability to land that on me because it's coming to my like angled side. So this is one of the reasons it's really important to look at which direction you're cutting someone off. Here I'm staying in, getting those knees just starting. So it's a dominant round for me, but because it's round 2, it does not matter that I did well in that round unless going into round 3, which is where the story really starts, what happened in round 2 is cohesive with the story I'm trying to tell in round 3. So Dang wasn't talking to me. Dang is the man in my corner. He was my trainer at Lana Muay Thai when I came to Thailand. At first, I was at Lana in the north for 2 years. He was my trainer, and he was a great trainer for fight context, and he still corners for me when I come up to Chiang Mai to fight. He doesn't talk to me a whole lot between rounds 1 and 2 other than like keep your hands up or step on your kicks. But you can see how animated he is now going into round 3 because round 3 matters. This is when you start to tell your story for the narrative. He's putting more Vaseline on my forehead because Palmy has cut me before in fights. And basically you just put as much Vaseline on as you can between rounds to just like try to safeguard that a little bit. But he's basically just telling me to step on my kicks and stay close because that's my range. And I'm doing all right going hard to the left so far with her. That marching he was doing with his legs is blocking on your way in. I'm a knee fighter, and so as a knee fighter, you have to come forward a lot, and you're basically just nullifying an opponent's strikes as you're trying to close that distance so that you can get to your own distance and do your own damage. Blocking is really important for knee fighters like that. Oh, she's got a beautiful left kick. So you can see she's fighting a little different. She's a little bit more aggressive in this round because she's trying to stake her claim to the narrative of how this fight goes. She's going to try to just like have these one-shot picking points. That's how she wins fights against me. Oh, that was really good. So the highest scoring points in Muay Thai in Thailand are to the middle of the body. So my knees, when I grab her and I'm kneeing her in the middle, those score really high. But when she kicks me in the middle, those score really high for her. So it's basically a battle of range, but we're both trying to land like in the middle of the body. My Dern has changed a little bit. You can see that I'm like pausing a little bit. But because I put those knees in the bank with my clinch in an earlier round, she's gonna have to look fresh this entire round of like trying to back up and just tag me. And that's very hard to do when I've been tiring her out with those knees already. You can see I'm blocking and trying to hit back. There's that thing that Dang was telling me of just like block and keep coming in. See how I'm stepping outside of her left foot? This hadn't happened yet, but I just put in the Muay Thai library this beautiful session with Ajahn Net Saknarong. He's a southpaw fighter, and he focused so much on where your foot lands outside of your opponent, and it makes such a huge difference. And you'll see in this fight, when my lead foot is outside her lead foot, it totally stymies what she's able to do. I'm staying wide here and controlling her arms and turning and getting these knees to the middle of her body. These are huge points. And she's just trying to wiggle her way in, so it makes her actually super inactive. My knees to her knees are like 3-1, and mine are landing harder. That's how I knocked her out in our last fight, is with these turns and then knees to the middle of the body. That was round 3, so that's when the story really starts, and I just had a very dominant third round. So you'd think, okay, first scoring round, Sylvie did well. We're in a good place, like we're really happy that Sylvie's ahead. Yes, but what makes it difficult is if you have a really strong third round, you have to have an even stronger fourth round. So if I'm ahead in round 3, the pressure is actually on me, not on my opponent, to keep that lead going into round 4. And as a knee fighter, as a power fighter going forward, I have to escalate my dominance of her. The way that she fights, because she likes to go backwards and just tag, if she were ahead, which she's not, but the way that she could take the lead in round 4 is by making me look kind of desperate and like landing a lot of just little tag points. So if she was staying away from me effectively, she would just have to stay away from me effectively again and a little bit more. This is something that Dang is pointing out here. He wants me to punch on my way in. This is really good advice. 1, because you're scoring and you're interrupting your opponent on your way in. But if you just come in as a knee fighter and try to grab, your opponent can wait for you and kind of time their elbows. I've walked into elbows so many times where I'm like helping my opponent cut me because I'm just not using weapons on my way in. Both times that Palmy has cut me, it's been because I'm not striking on my way in. So Dang telling me to punch as I'm coming in is really good in terms of strategy and protection for closing that distance. But there's an interesting secondary part to this, which is that my punches end up a little bit wide in fights because of the pressure. Oh, that was good on her part. If my punches are wide, she can elbow up in the middle of it. And I didn't know this until I did a session for the patron library with, we call him Chicken Man. His name is Crew Guy, and he's at Patron Ring Gym. He was telling me that the position your arms are in your guard is gonna dictate how your punches come out. She just tried to elbow me there on the way in. So by pointing my elbows forward, I can protect against her punches because she's punching me on the way in as well. I'm scoring so many points in this clinch right here. And the turns are keeping her off balance so I can keep scoring. By pointing my elbows forward, I'm using my elbows as protection against her strikes as I'm coming in, but they also make my punches straighter. If you watch my library sessions with Sagat and Chart Chai, they both talk a lot about punching with your elbows close to your body in order to make them really straight. It's really, really good technique. And it's something that, now that I know that it comes from your guard, I'm gonna be working a lot on. See that right cross to her chest? That actually came out straight because my elbow was pointing forward. And my left foot was outside of her front foot, which is what I was talking about with Ajahn Net. His session is the most recent one in the library just after we filmed this. Oh. So she's been going backwards this whole time, so she can't really change going backwards. She just has to make it look like she's forcing me to come forward. But she's more tired now. So when I come forward and punish her like with that cross that just landed on her jaw, or if I make it look like she's like desperately trying to keep me off of her. That's what I mean when I'm talking about the narrative of a fight. She's going backwards anyway, but if I hesitate a lot and she's going backwards smooth and like landing these strikes on me, it looks like she's controlling me coming forward. It looks like she's pulling me towards her. If I come forward and I'm landing when I get near her, I look like I'm knocking her backwards and she's running away from me. It's literally the same motion from both of us, but with wildly different interpretations. And a lot of that has to do with what you're able to do when you're tired. Duuglas-Ittu, who is the king of knees, he's the father of knee fighting, he's absolutely incredible. He has this ethic about training, and he tells everybody when he's doing private sessions with them at my gym, so I get to see them. He's available for privates in these 3 days that he's at Petrungrung every week. He's always telling people that of all the styles of Muay Thai, it's the Muay Khao fighters who have to train the hardest, because we have to get used to being tired all the time. You don't have to be used to being tired just so that you have power late in a fight. That's great. But you have to be used to being tired so that when you're tired, you don't look it. Like, you look like you can still perform under that fatigue. That's the thing about femur fighters, is that they're very technical and beautiful and evasive, but they can only look beautiful and evasive if they have the power to do so. So if you tire them out, they look like they're running away and like desperate, without the energy for the performance. And if I don't have the energy, if I look tired and I look like I'm like running after her, I look desperate. So it's actually, your gas tank has a lot to do with your performance rather than like whether you can actually persevere all the way through the round or not. You're gonna fight all the way anyway, but it's like these little tiny differences in composure that make all the difference, and that comes from how you train. Oh, that knee, my right knee was just beautiful on her. And she had her leg up trying to keep me, and I just went around it. That was a really big point. So she's putting that right arm out that I hate so much, but she's tired, so it drops. If she had more energy, she could keep that right in my face. See how she's just trying to time everything now, because she's running away from me, and so it's basically like back, and tag me. My whole thing is keeping her from being able to post. If she can go backwards, post, and tag me, she wins for sure. That's her range. I have to walk straight through her range. I'm starting to use this long guard that True New makes such a big deal about. You basically keep the guard really long, take the punch, and then strike out of it. It allows you to keep your spot. I like to bounce out and actually use distance for protection, which is the worst thing in the world for my size and my style. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm staying close, and that's partially that long guard. I have her arm hooked. This is something that Duuglas-Ittu really loves. He shows it to me in his library sessions in the patron library. I just landed some really good points, and so now I'm taking claim to having won this fight on points, which I did not think was possible going into this fight. And Palmy is seceding. This is why you see us tapping gloves, as she's like, I'm not going to try to win this fight anymore. We're basically just going to dance off. I've been punished at this stadium for dancing off too early. In the 5th round, I started dancing off maybe with like a full minute or minute and a half in a 2-minute round. And I've lost a fight that I absolutely should have won, but I danced off too early and they punished me for it. My opponents don't get punished for that same thing of dancing off too early. And while that sounds like a poor me, it's not fair kind of thing, I have a different style than my opponents. I'm a forward fighter. So it's not unfair in this, like, they're penalizing me and not my opponents. They're penalizing my style. The way that I fight, I don't get to do the same things that my opponents who fight differently get to do. And you have to learn that. You have to pay attention to that, and you have to lose fights that you think you should have won in order to learn that. I was very proud of this, though, given all of the circumstances going into this fight. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube with my voiceover, this is after the fight has happened. But what you're watching right now, my husband live streams all of my fights on my Facebook page. So if you're watching me on YouTube, definitely go to my Facebook page, because you can watch my fights live. And my husband has started doing commentary while the fights are happening, and his commentary is really, really good. So you can watch those while they're actually happening. And if you guys watch these on Facebook Live, you can watch them later with my commentary on YouTube. People are not aware that both of these things happen. But you get to see a little bit of the space that I actually fight in. This is Taipei Stadium. When I fight, like at a festival fight, Kevin's always moving through the crowd afterwards with the camera. You might see me get stitches live after fights. It is known to happen. This big guy who's helping take off my gloves, he's a Muay Thai photographer. And taking gloves and wraps off of a fighter is actually grunt work. It's the work that like your teammates or like the younger kids from your gym will do. So it's very sweet that he's helping take my gloves off. It means he's like Team Sylvie. Like he's demonstrating Team Sylvie. It's very cool.